Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to a few of you. Welcome to today's community briefing. It is the 6th, I always have to double check, the 6th of October, 2022, and we are glad you're here. Our guest today is Jimar Wilson, and he's going to be sharing, sorry to say sending, but he's going to be sharing some wonderful information with us today. So stand by, be tuned, and I think you're in for a treat. So, my name is Gregory Sneed, and again, welcome to the community briefing. I have a company, Lifesaver Financial Services, where I help my clients keep more of the money that they make. I do that through life insurance solutions, fixed annuities, long term care, final expense. I'm also a financial coach, and I teach financial literacy because I firmly believe that when you feel better about your money, you feel better about your life. If you'd like to feel better about your money, I'll have some information in the chat, and I'd like to get you and your money reacquainted. Now, our Egyptian queen, Crystal Mitchell, and she is the queen and host of our community briefing. And it's my pleasure to welcome her to the virtual stage. Crystal.
Hey, thank you, Greg. Thank you, Greg. Yeah, Egyptian queen. Huh? I love being acquainted with my money, Greg. It's the best acquaintance that I actually have. And I love everybody in my world, but I love my money even more. So glad to have you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I am Crystal Mitchell. I am the co-host and of multiple podcasts, and this being one of them. And I am also the co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, where we believe that if we recycle our dollars more than 6 hours in our community, we'd be such a much better community. But we're working on that. This platform was created so that the community, that's the small business owner, could have an opportunity to meet your leaders and stakeholders that are sitting at tables making decisions about you and for you. And so this way you have your input and to find out firsthand what's going on and how it affects you. We got an amazing team here on the community briefing. Miss Robin Billups, she just popped in. Hey, Robin. Myself and Mr. Greg Sneed and Mr. Stephen Turner, our producer. We are pleased to be here. We've been here actually for I think almost 3 years. So we are bringing you some amazing people to talk to. So I hope you guys are reaching out to them, and I hope you are networking with each other. The topic today with Mr. Jamal Mar Wilson is about affordable housing, which I think is one of the most important topics that we can have in our city today. There was a post yesterday that someone was moving to Los Angeles and they were asking where to live. And my question was, why? It's too damn expensive to live here. And I hope you have a powerful wife for being here. Because she was asking where was the best place to live. And that's a question that is hard to answer today, right? It's like everything is outrageously expensive, and we don't know what's the best communities anymore because it's just where we are. So I am happy to see him and hear from him today. And it's also we're in voting season, and I think that's a couple of the propositions on the ballot is about housing, and that is something that we really need to talk about. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Gregory Sneed. But before I do that, hello, Miss Cherie Franklin, glad to have you, another person in that space. All righty, back
Hi,
to you, Greg.
Crystal. How are you?
I am good.
Yes, I thank you for hosting this topic today. Thank you.
Yeah, all right, Mr.
Thank you.
Greg, let's kick it off.
All right. Today, our guest is Jimar Wilson, and he considers himself to be an affordable housing advocate and educator. So he's helping to contribute to the affordable housing advocacy community as a member of a nonprofit and regional market leader. He's also an adjunct assistant professor at LA Trade Tech. He's currently with Enterprise Community Partners, so he has both there. He has experience with the American Business Bank as a vice president and CRA officer. He did that for a while, was with Boston Private as a VP and community investment officer. He was with Northern Trust as a vice president and regional community development manager. Served as West Angeles Community Development Corporation. I was there for 3 years as a housing director and also real estate project manager. Jamar, I had dental surgery this morning, so I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the city of.
Ypsilanti.
Okay.
Or Ipsy.
Ordinarily, I would take a stab at that, but not today. And he has let's see, he went to the UC Berkeley, heard of that school, good school. And also MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, master in city planning. I think that's located in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and home of KLH speakers. Used to make some great speakers, KLH audio. I think they probably went out of business, but they were located in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Not sure where he grew up. He's going to share that with us. Where did he grow up? Is he native of California? Is he from the Massachusetts area? He'll share that with us in just a moment. And today he's really going to talk to us about the challenges of affordable housing, homelessness. It's an urgent crisis. It seems to be getting worse and not better. So please welcome to the virtual stage, Mr. Jimar Wilson.
Thank you very much for this need. And Crystal, thank you for having me, and Stephen, thank you for the invitation. As I mentioned earlier, before we started, I have hopped on to this briefing whenever my schedule permits. So I'm happy that you guys are providing this forum just for the community, just to learn more and get educated and stay educated and informed on the different issues. Thanks for the for the bio. As far as where I'm from, I am homegrown, born and raised in West Adams, and and my parents did not grow up here. My late mother grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, or Henning, Tennessee, to be specific, and my father from Louisville, Kentucky. My father fought in Vietnam and moved here after his stints. Didn't want to go back to Louisville, as you might imagine. So he came to LA, and he met my mom, who moved here as a 5-year-old. My grandfather, her father, was a Pullman porter, and we know this story. My grandfather is traveling all around the country. This is the late 40s, early 50s, and they were ready to get up out of Memphis. And the legend in the family is that my grandfather went to my grandmother and said, "We're leaving, Henning. We're either going to Chicago or to Los Angeles. You pick." And my grandmother picked Los Angeles. And so they hightailed it. My grandparents with their 5 children moved to Watts. And that's where my mother grew up. She went to Fremont and, met my dad. And that's how I was born here in LA. And so like I said, I'm a son of the city, proud to be here. I've been around the country, as you can see, but I have been back in LA since '04. And for those newcomers who are still thinking about coming and we're questioning like why, it's hard to leave. I can't think about being anywhere else. It's tough, as expensive as it is. I just can't think of being anywhere else. I'm happy to be here, the weather and everything. I'm also a product of LA Public Schools. I've been LA Unified K through 12. I was bused out to the San Fernando Valley for high school, went to Granada Hills. And that was kind of like my first time seeing the difference in quality of life between the city and suburban, particularly in the Northwest Valley. And that kind of piqued my curiosity early on about just really thinking about what can I do to be sort of a difference maker or a change agent, if you will, to improving the quality of life for the people in my community who didn't have grocery stores at the ready, as we saw plentiful retail opportunities and clean streets in the suburbs. But here in the community, we were just lacking everything. And so was always curious about ways to improve that experience for people around me and just people in general. So getting bussed out was tough, being up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day as a 14, 15-year-old, but it had its benefits, and afforded me an opportunity to get a good education. And you saw the schools I went to, and my focus has always been on service, community development. At Cal, my major is social work. And even though I'm working in affordable housing, the overarching tenor of who I'm about is about service. And my service just happens to be on the neighborhood scale and not so much the individual scale that you think when you think about a social worker. So everything I do speaks to the things that are important to me. As you mentioned, today I work for a national nonprofit that's focused on all things affordable housing. I run our LA market. I teach urban planning and community development at LA Trade Tech. Been doing that for about 7 years and enjoy that very much, pouring into young people to help them understand ways that they can be a part of solutions. And I'm also a business owner, a co-owner of a brick and mortar on Crenshaw Boulevard called the Metaphor Club. And it's a co-working space, and but we're all about community there as a place for us to just be. And so all the things that I involve myself in, there's a common theme to around those things, and keeps me pretty busy. So I'll stop there.
So, congratulations on the Metaphor Club, and I think I know a couple of your. I think you have some co-owners, some brothers.
Lawrence, right? Lawrence Ross.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Talk to us about my number one question when they talk about affordable housing is the definition of affordable.
Mhm.
Because what may be, I see people asking for, recommendations and things. They're looking for something affordable, and someone who's making $2 million a year, for them, affordable is obviously much higher. And then somebody's making 100,000 or 200,000 is affordable, and somebody's only making 60 or 70 or a minimum wage. Affordable becomes relative. So what does that mean when it talks about affordable?
You're right, and it is relative, but if we're going off of, say, just some working definitions that are given to us at the government level, federal, local, uh, a few different ways to look at it. One, a home is affordable to you, whether it's a home that you're renting or that you're paying a mortgage on. It's affordable to you when you are spending no more than 30% of your income towards that rent or towards that mortgage. If you are spending more than 30%, and some metrics may say 33%, if you're spending more of your income, more than 30 or 33% of your income on housing, you are what's determined as a rent burdened or cost burdened. You're allocating too much of your wages and income towards housing, which should be going towards other things. So that's one definition from a property management standpoint or owner developer standpoint. It's also you are capped at the amount of rent that you can charge someone if you're getting public subsidies, for example, for your affordable housing development. So if you're building affordable housing, you're getting government money, state, local, federal. Those government entities will cap the amount of rent that you can charge to ensure that it's affordable to a certain person or household at a certain median income level. That could be 60% of the area median income, all the way down to, in some cases, like 15 to 25% of the area median income, depending on who you're targeting. So think about it in terms of like just the cost burden. No matter what income level you're at, you should not be spending more than 30%. Unfortunately, at the lower income levels, more people, there's a higher percentage of people spending way more than 30%. Many are spending upwards of 50, 60% of their income. And that's a crisis.
And then, so how do they figure out, because we see a lot of these properties that are coming up, and there's some dedication to affordable, maybe the entire complex is, I don't know if I want to call it a complex, but the entire building. There's sometimes certain units that are designated, sort of, or use the word earmarked, but carved out for affordable housing. How is all that calculated, and how does it go? How does that work out?
Basically referred to as like set asides. So an affordable housing development or an apartment home community could be receiving, when they're going for a permit, certain concessions. Maybe there's a mandate to provide X number of parking spaces, or maybe the developer wants to go higher than what the zoning code allows. The city or entity might offer some concessions, and they offer those concessions with the expectation that by giving them, you would make a certain percentage of those apartment homes affordable. And I'm calling them apartment homes as opposed to affordable housing units, because whether it's a rental unit or a home or a single family house, it's a home to that person occupying it. So I'm referring to it as an apartment home, an apartment home communities. And uh, those types of set asides often are required by developers that are seeking any type of like permit or relief against the zoning code, or any kind of concession. Um, it's a mandate that can come from the city, can come from the state, can come from federal government. And in Los Angeles, some developers have the opportunity to, instead of putting those affordable units, apartment homes, in their multifamily apartment community, they can either pay a fee or put those affordable units elsewhere if they have another project within a certain radius of that primary project.
How has affordable housing evolved over time? In other words, you look back to, I'm going to wind back to the 1950s, and I grew up in New York City, and some of the eastern cities had a lot of city-owned affordable housing. I was actually surprised how few or how little there were here in Los Angeles, compared to Chicago or that.
Sure,
So
sure.
has that? I mean, in the 50s and 60s, it seemed there was a lot of it of being built, and then there was a lull in the 70s, 80s, maybe 90s. Sort of sometimes goes ups and down. Where are we now in comparison to where the development of affordable housing is historically?
Yeah, no, that's good. Again, it's like in Los Angeles, uh, comparable to Chicago, or to juxtapose Chicago and New York, which has a huge proliferation of public housing. That's what you're referring to, housing that is owned and operated by the government. I distinguish public housing, which is affordable, uh, from affordable homes that maybe a private developer for a profit or nonprofit is building and bringing to the marketplace. You're right, there isn't as much public housing in the city of Los Angeles comparable to a lot of major cities across the country. Um, and that stock is aging. There's been no new public housing development. As a matter of fact, one of our more popular uh, public housing communities, Jordan Downs, has been undergoing a significant redevelopment. And I'm not sure if I think uh, there may be some people on here who are part of that redevelopment, but that is an example of trying to kind of modernize the public housing space in the city. Uh, as far as like historical, does someone have a comment?
Yeah, Jamar, I could speak to the Jordan Downs, but I'll wait till you go to question and answer.
Sure, sure. Thank you. Appreciate that, Cherie. Uh, Historically, there's been not much new public housing that's been developed. I think you can contribute that to many factors. City funds have kind of transitioned to other priorities, into more of a property management standpoint. And the new affordable housing that's been coming to the marketplace has been largely provided by uh, developers, mission-driven nonprofit developers, mission-driven for-profit developers who are taking advantages of different public subsidies at the state, federal, local level. The singular tool has been the federal low-income housing tax credit, and that's been around since the early mid 80s as a primary tool to help bring equity to developers who are building affordable housing, which is vital because obviously if you're building and providing affordable housing units, you're not getting market rate rents. And so the cost to build is the cost to build, whether you're building affordable or market rate, but the rent you're generating are vastly different. And so to make up that gap between the low rents that are being charged in the affordable homes, there needs to be these public subsidies to help close that gap. And so historically, in the last several decades, that's been the primary tool and focus on how we have brought affordable housing to the marketplace. In Los Angeles, I'm not sure if this is the case in New York or other northeast cities, but in Los Angeles, there's also what we call naturally occurring affordable housing. These are homes that are owned by private landlords. Think of the 2 to 10 or 2 to 20 unit apartment homes all throughout the city, high proliferation in South LA. And these are in the hands of private actors, private landlords, and they are not under a mandate to make the homes affordable, but in keeping with just caring about their community and being good stewards. More often, those units are renting at affordable rates, and so we have private actors who are building intentionally building affordable housing, mission-driven nonprofits and for-profits, and then we have private folks who just happen to be landlords, many of them Black and brown, BIPOC, who just happen to own apartment communities that are more smaller, like 2 to 20 unit. And those units overwhelmingly are still serving the needs of those who are at modest incomes.
You mentioned a good point there. With the trend for affordable housing, what's the ratio between existing structures and new development, new properties that are coming online?
There is tons of thousands of units that are under construction and in the pipeline to be built. And one of the things that we focus on at my organization, Enterprise Community Partners, is we provide equity and debt to developers who are building affordable housing, and we will always support new construction. Production is very, very important, but just as important as production is, we also know that preservation of existing affordable homes is just as vital. We have a zero-sum game if we build, but let all of the existing affordable homes go offline, meaning they got sold to another developer or owner who took those units market rate or offline or converted them to condos or some other use. So we are calling attention at Enterprise to the need for policymakers to really ensure that operators of existing affordable homes have the resources that they need, the capital and support to keep those homes affordable.
What are some of the trends or impact? Maybe you can even explain, briefly explain the program of the low income housing tax credit that is designed to be able to increase affordable housing.
Ooh, that's a class unto itself to understand. It probably took me years to really understand it myself. But just to give a quick hit about it, it's a federal program administered at state levels, and some states it's administered at the city level. And basically, it's a tool to get private investment, private capital into the ecosystem of building affordable housing. So you are a mission-driven nonprofit organization. You have site control, or you own a piece of property and you want to build some affordable housing, and you are going to apply to the state for these low-income housing tax credits. Your project costs $10 million. You can only get about 3 million, 2.5 to 3 million in the form of a loan, because your rents are that low. That's the biggest loan your project will support. You've gotten some public subsidies at the city level or state and federal. You still have a gap. You still, and so these federal low-income housing tax credits that you're applying for, should you be successful, you now have received an allocation of these competitive credits. Now you're a nonprofit, you're not even paying taxes. And what can you do with tax credits to really help your project? Or you're going to take those credits and use a third-party entity, a syndicator or middleman, if you will, to sell those credits in the private market to corporations that would salivate over tax credits. Think any CFO of any Fortune 1000 or any size salivates over tax credits against their tax liability. And so in exchange for that corporation buying those credits, you in turn get hard cash from that corporation. That's hard cash equity that you can put directly into your project. So it is a tool, a mechanism that has many machinations to ultimately arrive at a affordable housing project receiving hard equity cash to contribute to the completion of building affordable housing. And that happens over hundreds of thousands, probably close to 1 million units have been built over the years utilizing this tool.
And did the recent, the last 5 years, corporate tax rates were decreased. So did that impact the this tax credit, or have no impact on it? But
I think there was some impact when the tax rate went down, but I think there's been a recovery. Congress, different sessions have, in the most recent session has re-upped and increased the allocation of these housing credits. So it's not a permanent credit, so it has to be reauthorized periodically. And I think recently the reauthorization had a significant increase in credits.
we have some questions. We're going to localize it a little bit. So the recent homeless count here in Los Angeles is about 69,144, which is a 4% increase since 2020.
Yeah.
So how is the unhoused homeless being addressed given this enormous cost of new housing here in Los Angeles?
Ooh, great question. This is the question, the issue, the top issue of our day right now. And, as far as what's being done, a lot of things are in action. As a layperson who walks down the street and you see housing insecurity in your face on a daily basis, you may not think that there's progress being made, but there is significant work being done. And the crisis is going to require a multi-pronged solution. Like, we're all waiting and hearing about a potential one size fits all. That's not really how things work. And so we're going to need people to be focused on interim housing solutions. That's rapid rehousing, getting people off the streets into interim housing to just meet that acute need. And then we need to also focus on more longer term solutions. That's permanent supportive housing. And not everyone who's experiencing homelessness needs supportive housing. Some people just fall on hard times. They could have had a life event that just put them in a tenuous circumstance, and that person or household could benefit from some type of rapid rehousing situation or a permanent solution, and they'll be fine. But there are others, and many who have chronic issues, whether they be substance abuse issues, mental health issues, where they do need more supports. And one of the challenges that we have right now is that even though there's this large, ever-growing number of people experiencing homelessness, there are a lot of beds that are available that simply aren't being used. So we have, for the first time in a long time, a underutilization challenge where a developer operator may build a apartment home community for people who are experiencing homelessness, and then they have to go through a public process through a matching system, and oftentimes those matches just aren't solid ones. So imagine putting someone that is high acuity or has significant need into a unit that's available, but there are no services there. You can imagine that person could end up being right back on the streets within days or weeks, just because they have four walls, but they have no services, nothing that's going to help them stay there. You multiply that by multiple floors in that apartment community. You multiply that by multiple buildings on that block, multiple blocks in a census tract in the neighborhood, and then you see how that one singular issue gets exacerbated and contributes to a large problem that has nothing to do with new construction. That's like a systems change issue there. And that's another focus that is not really given much attention. We know about the new construction Triple H deals that were meant to build new housing, and that program is actually working. Maybe not at the pace that people are hoping for, but it's actually working. The issue is that costs keep rising, and projects get delayed, and so there are a lot of factors that are out of our control. But the issue is, we need a multi-pronged approach. We need to focus on new construction, of course. We need to focus on, interim housing solutions, permanent housing solutions, services, and again, addressing like that matching system and that underutilization, so that we don't have units just sitting empty that don't have to be. And so I know it looks kind of uncoordinated, but I would say that at no time in our history in LA has like the city and county and other jurisdictions been working in concert the way that they have. It's just that the challenges are so vast, and while people are looking for one solution or one person to be the czar, the reality is they're going to take a lot of different approaches to solving this.
We need an affordable housing superhero, huh?
We have a lot. We do have a lot. We just but we could benefit from some additional voices, just really connecting more dots, so that we're
You're one of them. You're one of them. Another question we have here is Avaneth Capital recently acquired 669 housing units in the Baldwin Village. Will any of these be set aside as affordable units? And who are some of the other major Black participants in the affordable housing landscape here in Los Angeles?
Great question. There could be someone else on here who might have more detailed information about that particular project, but Avaneth, they purchased that with the intent of maintaining affordability. So I don't think there's any plans to increase rents. I think that purchase represented an acquisition that was supposed to actually help preserve and maintain the quality of life for tenants who are there. And I don't know what their long-term plan is for like redevelopment or upgrades, but I think that was as it stands today, sounds like it was a positive acquisition for the community. I see some hands raised that may have some more
well,
comments.
We have a couple questions ahead of those. I think Robin has a hand, but she has a question here also. She's asking to speak to the role the community plays in having input on development in their communities. In other words, active engagement is necessary, and development is a marathon, not a sprint. So
definitely a marathon. And the community, everywhere around the city, around the county, take any city in the county, there is a mechanism in place for community input, and it's the burden is on that community member to want to immerse themselves and get educated on the process for development. And in many cases, when people get unnerved about when they hear about a new project coming to the community and they're upset about it for whatever reason, in many cases, that by the time your anger really festers, the project has already been approved, greenlit, permitted, and is ready to go. And there's nothing you can do but just express your discontent. But if you know more about the development process, you then know when your voice could have more weight. And in Los Angeles, most affordable housing projects, any projects of certain size, have to go apply for a permit, and it kickstarts all these different meetings and convenings in which there are opportunities for people to get engaged. This could be at the neighborhood council level, where if you sit, you can either serve on that neighborhood council or at least attend that meeting where that project may be presented in concept form to see if there's interest in going forward, or you can make suggestions on how to modify it. Maybe we want the parking to be in the rear, or we want some more green space, or we need more 3-bedroom units in this community because we have large families. There's opportunity. The developers do offer opportunities for that kind of feedback. What they do with it is another story, but at least there are touch points where community members can actually get involved to support or impact land use development in their community.
Another question from Crystal, and I see Robin, I see your another question here. Is in Los Angeles, is there real strategy to address the homeless problem in the city? I mean, you spoke about that before. And you mentioned that she mentions here that the Mayor Eric Garcetti and housing officials are set to discuss the opening of a waiting list lottery for Section 8 housing vouchers on Tuesday. So that's coming up soon. So I think the registration begins on the 17th. Information on that, or?
The first part of it, yes, there are coordinated efforts to address the crisis. Again, I think a big challenge is that what we are hearing, particularly in this election cycle, is really a focus on like just quick solutions. Some of them are more lofty than others, but I think there are so many people, agencies, and actors that are dealing with this issue on a daily basis that we could benefit from just learning more about, again, the different challenges with housing. It's not just we need to build our way out of this. We need to also preserve. We need to improve the matching system to make sure that people are getting put in the right setup for success, if you will. We need a lot of, a lot more support, at the local level to, push for interim solutions. A lot of people just want to see encampments just go away, and no one's happy about seeing them. But we have to own the fact that, there are a lot of people that are just really in tenuous circumstances that be thankful that you're not one of them. But the compassion that's required to really solve this, it's not present everywhere. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, I understand people don't want to see it in the neighborhood, but I also think it was just a couple of days ago, right on the shore there at Venice Beach. There was a house under construction. There was someone homeless there. A fire started, and that structure, and I think either 2 or 3 next, went up in flames. And these are multi-million-dollar homes. So the people understand and trying to be tolerant, but then that obviously that really impacts them. Another question here from Robin: supply issues and finding labor are creating challenges as well. Any insight on how that's impacting the affordable housing structure?
Oh yeah, I mean the labor has always been a challenge. It's been exacerbated by the pandemic, supply chain issues, labor cost, materials cost. Once upon a time, so I teach an affordable housing class, and I had this old pro forma or cash flow projection and construction budget that had a cost per unit, about being, about $250,000 per unit. And if I were to say that number now, I get laughed out, just laughed at, because now that dollar amount for building affordable housing has tripled and in some cases quadrupled. And so, imagine the mission-driven nonprofit getting site control, getting started with a project, but then seeing, these labor and material increases in real time impact their project to where they have to either delay, stop, or try to find some other dollars. But it's really is one of the bigger challenges around the production of affordable housing. Those costs.
Crystal had another question, and Robin, I see you still have your hand up. So if you have another question,
go with Robin and Cherie, and then you can come back to me later.
Okay, Robin.
Yeah, guys, again, good morning, guys. And again, the mission of community briefing is to bring information that we can make action on. And the reason why I mentioned the fact, the community plays a role in all of this. The sad part about it is we don't attend these meetings. We don't go to PTA meetings. We don't go to back to school night. You have to attend these meetings and understand what's happening in the housing area and economic development area. And the last thing I want to say, and I want to entreat Jimar, there are a host of African-American Black folks who are in some exceptional roles right now in the affordable housing game. I'm a lender. I'm a deal junkie. I've been a lender forever. I've done affordable housing, but Jimar's manager, the national president of Enterprise, is assistant. Jimar is the regional manager. Cherie Franklin has been at the table fighting for us forever. Van Scott. Tina Johnson Hall is the executive director of CalHAPA, the California Housing Finance Agency. Robin Hughes is on a national level now with a housing consortium, and Lori Gay is certainly doing what she does with NHS. So what I'm saying to our community is, these are the individuals you need to follow. These are the individuals you need to support, and you have to get actively engaged. And the first way we can do that is to show up and vote. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mama Billups.
That's my sweetie.
So Cherie Franklin, I've done some work with her, and she's absolutely amazing in this space. Cherie, you had a question or comments, actually, and insight.
Yes. Yeah. So first, hi, Jimar.
Hello.
I am a proud member of the Metaphor Club, and those of you who are not, you can go to metaphorclub.com, is it? I just put that out there. Thank you. I don't get around there as much, but when I do, it's just a great opportunity to sit and write and think and plan. So thank you for creating that wonderful space in the Leimert Park Village community.
Thank you.
A few things I just wanted to add. I did the the Choice Neighborhood Grant for the Jordan Downs project, and then also some of their initial financing for the A6 grants. And as you know, they took Van Scott from me, so he was over there. But all of those large scale housing developments are transforming because the model for public housing doesn't work. It doesn't work with how there's a lack of resources, and it really is, as Robin was saying, incumbent upon us to make sure that we have the proper housing in our community. And many families do it by keeping rents affordable, as Jimar mentioned. But there are sources, and I think we would be remiss if we didn't, Ramar, ask you about how you, all of the major banks and entities have made a pledge to working with BIPOC and Black developers. And there's special funds and set aside for many people who are interested on this call. And there's all kinds of other sources that enable you. HUD has a lot of different products now if you're interested. If you're a service provider, like anyone providing transition age youth programs, there are programs to help you acquire units and be able to provide that quality housing. So if we could maybe speak to that, Jimar, the products you offer, there's Lyft, all of those guys who are helping. And I do want to put a plug in. We just recently formed last year the Black Developers Forum. So anyone who's interested, over the weekend, we had a big conference up north, and we're planning some down in Southern California, where all the Black developers that you mentioned, Robin, are come together so that we can vie for resources. One of the big successes is, and Fiona Ma attended the session. I couldn't go because I have COVID right now. I'm a little sad about that, but they did a set aside at the Low Income Housing Tax Credit Allocation Committee, and we advocated for that at the Black Developers Forum for $105 million to be set aside for BIPOC developers. There's a separate fund. But if we're not walking through the door with deals, where does that $105 million go? And we're advocating that all of the other fund sources at the state level and city level do the same thing, so we have an equitable opportunity to develop. But I really want to, Jimar, speak to how your enterprise has stepped up, Lyft has stepped up, List, to help Black developers, and we need more people taking advantage of those dollars.
Yeah, thank you for that, Cherie. Really appreciate that. You're right. There is a lot of momentum in our post-George Floyd era from corporations, financial institutions to demonstrate a new commitment to the community, and that today has been in the form of supporting what we'll call BIPOC developers or Black developers and other people of color who historically have been denied access to the ecosystem, all this capital to help be a developer. The industry, like most industries, there's a paucity of representation from us, and in the affordable housing space, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And when I go to conferences, and I know Cherie, you know this too, there are not a lot of us present. And maybe 15 years ago, there might have been more diversity, but it's gone in the wrong direction or in the opposite direction. And that's because many others are just learning about the capital, the wealth generation opportunities in this space, the income generation opportunities in this space. And we have been just not a part of it. Call it systematic, call it historical, intentional. But there is a new set of, there's a new momentum focused on supporting BIPOC developers. And so at Enterprise Community Partners, we have a national program called Equitable Path Forward. It's our 5-year strategy to actually increase the number of BIPOC developers in the affordable housing ecosystem. So that includes capital at the deal level and at the organizational level to build capacity as an organization, and to also have capital to participate in land use, whether it's capital to tie down property, to do some pre-development work, to apply for public subsidies. Locally, we're also going to be launching next month, or at least by the end of the year, an advisory services program, where we will take a cohort of interested developers of color who want to learn more about getting into this affordable housing ecosystem, how to access public dollars, how to negotiate deals if you need to joint venture with someone so that you understand your value and your leverage, and just to really prepare you for the ability to be an active player, an independent active player in the affordable housing space in ways that others have been for years, if not decades. And so That's one thing that Enterprise is doing. There are other organizations that Cherie mentioned. There are some banks are launching programs. I think U.S. Bank is thinking about a program. Um, Goldman Sachs has a program, and after this, I can make sure that I send out to you some links and information about the different programs available. And I am very interested in the Black Developers Network and making sure that the resources that I steward are front and center and made available to all.
One last question for me, and then back over to you, Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
What is coming up on the ballot, either at a local, state, or federal level, in the areas of affordable housing or taxation related to that?
Proposition ULA is probably I'll start there. Proposition ULA, or the United to House Los Angeles. It's a City of LA ballot measure coming in November, and it basically is a real estate transfer tax meant to support the production of affordable housing. The city needs about almost 500,000 new units and about 200,000 new units just for low-income residents. And at the pace that we're at right now, we won't meet that mandate anytime soon. And so this ballot measure is one solution, not but one solution to help address that critical need to get that capital to build affordable housing and preserve affordable housing as well. It's a real estate transfer tax on properties, on real estate sales that are 5 million and above. So we're not talking about anybody and everybody is going to get subjected to this tax. It's a very small percentage of transactions that will be subject to it. And I believe it's a 4 or 5% tax that will be paid through the transaction. And it's meant to create somewhere between 600 million to $1 billion, and to help with affordable housing. And so I am in support of it. I think the LA Times just came out a couple of days ago in support of it, and the affordable housing community in mass is greatly in supportive of it. Take some time to read about it, just so you understand what it is. This is a taxation, again, on transactions that are over $5 million. So again, that's not and it's not in nonprofits who may be involved in a transaction at that dollar amount or above. They are exempt from that transfer tax. This is we have an issue about taxation here, but this is one solution here. Again, that is really tapping a very small percentage of actors in the space. So that's one measure that I would ask folks to get educated on and to consider voting favorably for.
And is that 5 million indexed, or does it stay static? Because at the rate we're going, $2 million homes will be at 5, like in a month and a half or something.
That is a good question. I'm not positive on that one.
Well, actually, with the interest rates going up, I see I get notifications that cost is coming down, especially in certain areas. So I think that should help. The thought process is that's to balance that out, right? To switch it over to a buyer's market versus a seller's market, or the reverse, right? So we have, this homeless thing is huge, right? Because in our communities, the violence and the crime has increased probably 10 to 20% since the pandemic. And a lot of it is because people are living on the street, right? And I know if I were living on the street, I would be in a desperate place. And also, I probably will have lost my mind already as well, right? Because you're used, it's not safe out there living in the street. So it's kind of a catch can kind of situation. But there are a lot of very expensive luxury, or even not even luxury apartments that are costing $2,000 to $4,000 a month that are sitting empty in Los Angeles. We got 93,000 units empty and 69,000 people living on the streets. And we'll say we'll give 50,000 of them are the ones that really truly want to be in housing but can't afford what the monthly rents are, because they're not making that kind of money. So who benefits from that? An empty building, somebody has to be benefiting. Either they're getting tax credits, they got some intensive 10-year alleviation of taxes, something, because you just don't build and put that much money in a building and let it sit empty unless somebody's benefiting from it. So who's benefiting from that?
That's a good question.
Because it
Your
always
guess
comes
is
back
good
to
as
the money,
mine.
guys.
I'll just say that there's a lot of capital out there. There's a lot of wealth, global wealth that is coming down into Southern California. So building it, making it available, somebody will end up renting it out or whatever. But I don't know the sheer magnitude of that vacancy at that level. I'm not sure what's driving that or who in fact is benefiting from that.
Well, there are a lot of one of the things on housing policy is the notion of housing first, and that is, getting people who need housing, who might be experiencing mental health or other issues, getting them in the housing first, and then providing them with services. So there's a shift to help fill. But if you look even in Skid Row, we did an assessment because they're trying to make the entire Skid Row only affordable housing development, which I don't agree with. I think it should be a mixture everywhere because that's containment. But there are over 400 units between Skid Row Housing Trust, SRO Housing, all those people. And the question is why? Many homeless people have a lot of issues to deal with, and having to be in housing and confined doesn't help them deal with them. So they're not going to go into housing. And that is a big problem that we have. It's not housing, it is mental health. It could be domestic violence. It could be so many things. Imagine if you're running from someone, being in one place probably isn't as safe. So we have to look at it as a total issue in our communities. Drugs have really impacted most of it for our community. And if you think of family members, it's drugs. So we have to advocate, but we're all collectively not doing enough. Because most of the people are people of color, and most of the people of color are African American, and our systems are discursive; they're not connected. There's no connection between the police and handling mental health and everything. So, I mean, I think there should be a call about that. How do we collectively come together to create a network and really understand the nuances of where do you place somebody when they're having a problem? How do you help people move from the streets into housing? It's more than a notion. People want to be in their own neighborhoods. We're on one of my projects with Innovative Housing on 87th and Western, which is going to be 100 units of affordable housing they're building for people who were formerly unhoused. There are people in camping there now trying to make sure that they have a place to be in that. And then you ask them why. I went there, I go, why are you camping out? They go, I don't want to be downtown. I want to be in my neighborhood. I grew up around the corner. So we need to do better matching of people in communities as well. And we don't do that at all. And that's a big problem. And this could go on forever. Everybody should participate in the housing count that's coming up in December, January as well, the homeless count.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cherie.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Greg. And then I had one more. So before you do that, Greg, so obviously there's a consensus that we need to get involved. So how do we get involved before the ink is dry, before all the plans are made? How do we get to voice our opinions about our communities that we live in? And as Cherie said, if we have resources and services that can help create that network, how do we go about doing that?
Well, on one hand, I mean, we do have processes in place, public processes in place for voices to be heard. There are people that you can elevate your concerns to en masse, starting with your local city council member and their staffers. And I don't really know in November if any of our council members in South LA are up for our reelection. But regardless of that, that is a good start. Any project that goes on that's in the pipeline, the local office will know about it. And if you have a vision, critique, concerns, there are public meetings, city council meetings, neighborhood council meetings, and you can even organize your own one-on-one meetings or direct meetings with elected officials and staffers just to make sure your voices are heard. In other parts of the city, other parts of the county, parts of the country, and more affluent areas, they're doing this stuff every day. They're not waiting until something is in the ground, until there's a groundbreaking. They're out in front talking about pipeline. Hey, what's coming down the pike? Who's doing what? Who's thinking about doing what? How can we get in on that? How can we make sure that this project benefits the community? And it's just a matter of being more, proactive and less reactive to what's going on. And again, that can start with your own group, just kind of understanding what your priorities are, talking with electeds about their priorities, legislative priorities, and making sure that you are constantly in the know. I mean, you have to read a lot. You got to look at city council meeting agendas. You have to look at homeless LASA meeting agendas, and really just stay on top of things. And unless you're doing that, you'll kind of always be in that more reactionary space.
Jimar, give us your 60-second commercial on why our young folks should look at studying city planning, urban planning, and also they may not have the opportunities to go to MIT, but there is LA Trade Tech. Mm-hmm. So talk to us about pursuing education, pursuing studies in urban and city planning.
I think that if you have any, a lot of young people are on the front lines of experiencing life, civic life, LA life on a daily basis in ways that we are not. Things that impact us may not impact them and vice versa, but young people are thinking about their lived experience, their built environment on a daily basis, and they're curious about how to improve it for themselves, their friends, their family, and in general. And there are tools you need to really understand the interdisciplinary challenges as to why the community is in the state that it's in. So you may not be fulfilled studying business to really learn really about all the issues in the community. There are elements of law, there are elements of politics, public policy, land use, business, sociology, economics that you really need to really focus in on to really understand the totality and the comprehensiveness of the challenges that we're facing. Urban planning has been that discipline for me that I learned as a college student that does represent that comprehensiveness, that comprehensive understanding of all the different issues at play. And so that's my best case to consider urban planning, because it introduces you to the myriad of work settings, public, private, nonprofit, large, small, different work settings under which you could get involved in this space. And so happy to share more, talk with anybody who's interested, a young person who's interested in learning more about trade tech or this space. Cherie is also a good, very good, teacher, a thoughtful teacher in this space as well. Many of us are around here, and she's also a planner as well by training.
Oh. That I am.
Well-informed planner. You guys want to know what's going on in LA? Reach out to Cherie. She is like her mind moves faster than some vehicles on the freeway, but she is incredible. So I just love her.
Thank you, Crystal. You guys are kind.
Feel better.
Yeah, feel better.
We're going to turn it over to Stephen. Thank you so much, Jimar. You have been awesome. Please come back, especially as we get closer to election time. Ardina wants contact information. And also, guys, as Cherie says, the Metamorph. Tell us a little bit about that before you jump off, so everyone knows what that is and why they should become a member.
Sure. I'll put my email in the chat. But the Metaphor Club, it's a co-working space. We've been around for about 4 years now, and I'm one of 4 owners in the community. 3 of my other fraternity brothers started this club as the need to just create a space for our people in the community just to be. During the pandemic, people, even pre-pandemic, people needed a place to work. You don't want to be at home. You don't want to be in an office. You want to be around some like-minded folks in a communal space, bounce ideas around, whether you're a creative or working on a book, writing for the television or the screen, a business proposal. this is a space for you just to really get that time to focus and to also get support. We do programming, we bring in writers, showrunners, business owners to share their experiences. And we have event space for people to put on their own events. And so again, it's a great space. Membership is a monthly membership, $99. You can get more information at themetaphorclub.com or DM us on Instagram or Facebook. Happy to share with you. Come by for a day pass. We got high speed internet, great coffee, and really good energy.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Stephen.
And he represents.
Wow.
Oh, he's an alpha.
The greatest.
Led with brother Sneed.
Well, then you're always welcome back. Between Stephen and I think she's here, but she's gone. I'm not a sorority, and Stephen, you're not affiliated with any, are you? So there you go. So you're always welcome back. Go ahead, Stephen.
Talking about coming back, Jimar, thank you ever so much for your insightful comments. Things are taking place in the housing market here in Southern California. One key thing that we took away is money, access to capital. So next week, we're fortunate to have Michael Bader, President and CEO of Los Angeles Local Development Company, who will talk about money that's come down the pipeline, specifically for Black business owners, from the White House to the county level. So tune in next Thursday, October 13th, 11 a.m.
Michael's great. That's gonna be a great one.
Thank you again.
All righty. Thank you, guys. You can find this on our Recycling Black Dollars and the Community Briefings Facebook page, group page, and also page. And it will be up in the archives on YouTube very shortly. Thank you so much, Jimar. You've been very insightful. Thank you, Cherie, for your input. This is a very important matter. So again, I'm going to speak for Robin because she left. Get your bottoms to the voting booth in November. This is a very important election, as all of them are. But since everyone is trying to take away our power to vote, it has a lot of value. Anytime somebody wants to take something from you, they're doing that purposely. They're not doing that just because. So just know that. And as Black people, we're always on the chopping block. So the only way we do have a voice is through our vote. And our ancestors fought hard in order to acquire that vote. So do not let anything stop you. Make sure you enlighten and educate yourselves. Don't just check off boxes on the ballot. Make sure you read and do your research. Do your homework. The books came out. I know mine's got here yesterday. So the books are out, but don't just rely on that. Don't just rely on your church telling you who to vote for. Do your homework. There are plenty of places, and ask somebody. Make sure your vote counts, and make sure you're protecting yourself, your family, and your communities. Our babies have to grow up in this world, and if we were to disappear tomorrow, are you guys comfortable with leaving this world to them? I'm not. So just know that your voice counts. So make sure you educate yourself, educate your children if they're 18 years old. Make sure they get to the voting polls. Don't even make it a choice. They gotta vote. Because you want to teach them how to do it properly at this age. So with that, Stephen, anyone want to say anything? Let's see. Mona Fortenberry says Plaza 55 holding a mobile voting site November 6th from 10 to 3 p.m. at 55th in Vermont. So make note of that. All righty, guys. It's been a great show. Thank you so much, Jimar. We would love for you to come back. And I thank you. And Greg, you want any partings?
06.
Okay. All righty. See you all. Renee, I think you had a question about my vacation video. I put it in the chat for you. But if those of you are interested in my visit to Egypt, it was awesome. But you can go to my Facebook page, Crystal Mitchell, and you can see my pictures and videos. I had a ball.
Thank you, Queen.
Thank you much. And I will be going back in the spring because I want to see I have a purpose reason. I have a real reason. It's because I have a grand niece that's there. So I probably will be visiting Egypt quite frequently until I can get her back to this country. So with that, guys, it's been awesome.
Crystal.
Yes.
John May. Hello, everyone. I just had to add, I don't have anything personal against Jimar or Gregory. I'm an Omega.
Oh, okay.
One of few.
I had to throw that in there.
You had to throw that in there. I do actually have some friends that are Omegas, and I have quite a few friends that are Caps. Y'all all are really connected to y'all's fraternity.
It's all good.
We love everybody.
Yeah, you love everybody. It's a brotherhood. This is what I say. When people tell me that Black folks don't work together, I always say that is not true. Because go talk to a Delta, or go talk to an Alpha or a Kappa or Omega, and they will tell you differently.
That has changed since we grew up.
So we Black folks do work together. Just ask anyone that's a part of any type of association, and you'll find out that's true.
Hey,
all right, guys.
Just for that.
Have a great and John, next time you come, get your backdrop, dude.
There you go.
You guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Thursday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Great weekend. I'll be talking with you, Crystal.
All righty.
Thank you, Crystal.
You are so welcome.